The rain hammered against the penthouse windows like accusations. Victoria Hayes stood in the doorway, her midnight blue dress clinging to her frame, water pooling at her feet. 5 years had carved her soft edges into sharp angles, but Dominic Sterling still recognized the woman who had destroyed him. "You have nerve showing up here." His voice was controlled thunder as he poured whiskey into crystal glasses. The amber liquid caught the city lights bleeding through floor-to-ceiling windows. Victoria's heels clicked against marble as she stepped inside. "You sent the invitation, Dominic. You said we needed to talk about what I took? What you stole." He turned, his steel blue eyes cutting through the space between them. The years had been brutal to him too. Silver threaded through his dark hair now, and new lines etched his jaw. $50 million. My quantum encryption research. My trust. She accepted the glass he thrust toward her, their fingers brushing for a heartbeat. The contact sent electricity up her arm, and she hated herself for it. "I took what I helped build. You were my assistant. My wife, not my partner." Each word landed like a fist. "You typed notes while I created something revolutionary. Then you sold it to Marcus Reed like it meant nothing." Victoria's laugh was sharp enough to draw blood. "Is that what you tell yourself? That I was just the pretty secretary warming your bed?" She moved closer, close enough to smell his cologne, the same scent that used to live in her clothes. "I worked beside you for 3 years, Dominic. Every breakthrough, every late night, every moment of genius. I was there. You were there to betray me. I was there to survive you." The words hung between them like a blade. Outside, Seattle glittered in the storm, indifferent to the wreckage of what had once been love. Dominic's jaw tightened. "What does that mean?" Victoria set down her glass with deliberate care. "It means I found the letters, Dominic. The ones you wrote to Catherine Blackwood. The ones where you called marrying me the biggest mistake of your career." His face went pale. "Victoria, those were never meant to be sent. They were just thoughts I was working through. Frustrations written at 3 a.m. when nothing was making sense. They felt real enough when I read them." Her voice cracked, and she hated the weakness in it. "Real enough that I knew I had 2 choices. Wait for you to discard me like yesterday's trash, or take what I needed to survive. So you chose to gut me first. I chose to protect myself." Dominic moved closer, and suddenly they were inches apart. Close enough that she could see the gold flecks in his eyes, the way his hands trembled with barely controlled rage. "You want to know the real tragedy, Victoria? Those letters, those stupid, sleep-deprived thoughts I never should have written. I burned them 2 days after I wrote them. I burned them because I realized how wrong I was, how much I loved you, how much I needed you." The room spun. Victoria's breath caught in her throat. "You're lying. I came home that night to tell you, to show you the engagement ring I'd commissioned. A real one, not the quick courthouse wedding we'd had." His voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried more pain than any shout. "But you were already gone. And so was everything that mattered." Victoria's world tilted on its axis. "There was no ring. You never mentioned a ring." Dominic reached into his jacket and pulled out a small velvet box. When he opened it, a sapphire caught the light, surrounded by diamonds that looked like stars. "I've carried it for 5 years, waiting for the day I could ask you one question." "What question?" His eyes burned into hers. "Why did Marcus Reed text you the night before you left, saying everything's in place? He'll never see it coming?" Victoria's blood turned to ice. "Because I found the texts, Victoria. All of them. And I need to know if any of it was real, or if you were planning to destroy me from the very beginning." Victoria's hand flew to her throat. The sapphire ring gleamed between them like evidence at a crime scene. "What texts? I never received anything from Marcus before I left. Don't lie to me." Dominic's voice was razors and broken glass. He pulled out his phone, fingers moving with controlled fury. "I have screenshots. The entire conversation." He thrust the screen toward her. Victoria's vision blurred as she read words she'd never written, plans she'd never made. Her stomach turned to lead. "This isn't me. Dominic, I swear on everything, this isn't me. Your number, your contact information, time-stamped the night before you vanished." He grabbed her wrist, not hard enough to hurt, but firm enough to keep her there. "Stop playing games, Victoria. I'm done with the lies. Look at the messages again." Her voice trembled, but she forced herself to meet his eyes. "Really look at them. When did I ever call you Dom? When did I ever use that many exclamation points? When did I ever talk like that? Dominic's grip loosened slightly. He stared at the screen, his jaw working. You're saying someone faked these? I'm saying someone wanted you to believe I was working with Marcus from the beginning. Victoria pulled her own phone from her clutch with shaking hands. But I have proof, real proof, of what actually happened. She scrolled through old emails, her fingers clumsy with adrenaline. Here, 3 days before I left. An anonymous email sent to my personal account. She turned the screen toward him. Read it. Dominic's face changed as he read. The color drained from his skin. These are photos of you, from that night at the Cascade Hotel. The night we had that fight about the merger. Keep reading. His voice was hollow as he continued. If you don't leave him and take the research, we'll send these to every board member at Sterling Technologies. We'll tell them you seduced him to steal company secrets. We'll destroy both of you. Victoria's throat tightened. I panicked. I thought someone had been following us, documenting everything. The photos looked real enough, intimate enough. I thought if I didn't do what they wanted, they'd ruin you. So you ruined me first. I thought I was protecting you. Tears burned her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. I thought if I took the research and left, they'd have no reason to come after you, no reason to expose anything. Dominic's hands dropped to his sides. He moved to the window, his reflection ghost-like against the storm-dark city. Do you know what the worst part is? I spent 5 years hating you, building case scenarios in my head about how calculated you were, how every kiss, every laugh, every midnight conversation was just you playing the long game. Dominic, and now you're telling me we were both pawns, that someone orchestrated all of this. He turned, and the devastation in his eyes made her chest ache. Who would do this? Victoria's phone buzzed in her hand. A text from an unknown number made her blood freeze. Having fun with your reunion? Check your email, both of you, right now. They stared at each other for one suspended heartbeat, then both reached for their phones. Victoria's email loaded first, a video file time-stamped 5 years ago. The subject line read, "The real story." She pressed play. The video showed a conference room she recognized. Sterling Technologies, executive level. 2 men sat in leather chairs, their faces clear in the fluorescent light. Marcus Reed and Jonathan Pierce, Dominic's former best friend and chief legal counsel. The plan is simple. Marcus's voice was smooth as oil. We plant the fake texts on Sterling's phone. We send the threatening email to Victoria. She panics, takes the research, and runs straight to me for protection. Jonathan leaned back, swirling whiskey in his glass. And Sterling thinks his wife betrayed him. He'll never suspect we set the whole thing up. Exactly. We get the quantum encryption protocols. Victoria gets to feel like a hero saving her husband, and Sterling loses everything. His company tanks without the research. We buy it up for pennies, and we're looking at a $10 billion payday. Victoria's hands trembled so violently she nearly dropped the phone. Beside her, Dominic had gone completely still. There's just one problem. Jonathan's smile was shark-like. What if Victoria doesn't run? What if she tells Sterling about the email? Marcus shrugged. Then we release the real photos, the ones I took of her at the hotel that night, the ones where she's crying in the hallway after their fight. We doctor them, make it look like she's meeting someone, plant some fake financial records showing she's been selling secrets for months. Either way, their marriage implodes, and we get what we want. The video ended. Victoria couldn't breathe. The room tilted, and Dominic's hand on her elbow was the only thing keeping her upright. Jonathan. His voice was barely audible. My best friend since college. The man who stood up at our wedding. They played us. Victoria's words came out strangled. They played us both like instruments, and we let them destroy everything. Dominic's phone rang, shattering the silence. He answered without checking the caller ID, his movements mechanical. What? The voice on speaker was cold and amused. Hello, old friend. I imagine you've watched our little movie by now. Jonathan? Why? Dominic's voice cracked. Why would you do this? Because you had everything I wanted. The company, the genius, the beautiful wife who looked at you like you hung the stars, and you took it all for granted. Jonathan's laugh was acid. So I decided to take it all away, and it worked beautifully for 5 years. What do you want? Victoria forced the words past the rage choking her. Simple. You're going to sign over Hayes Technologies to me. Every patent, every protocol, every dollar, or I release a new video. One that shows Victoria planning the theft with Marcus for months before any of this. Completely fabricated, of course, but convincing enough to put her in prison for corporate espionage. Dominic's jaw clenched. You can't do this? I already have. You have 48 hours to decide. Your freedom and your reputation, Victoria. Or your empire. The line went dead. Victoria sank onto the leather couch, her entire body shaking. Everything she'd built. Every 16-hour day, every sacrifice. It was all about to crumble. Again. Dominic knelt in front of her, his hands cupping her face with a gentleness that made her want to shatter. Look at me, Victoria. Look at me. She met his eyes, seeing her own devastation reflected back. We're going to end this. His voice was steel wrapped in silk. But I need to know something first. After everything we just learned, after 5 years of thinking the worst of each other, answer me honestly. Anything. That night at the hotel, when we fought about the merger, you were crying in the hallway when Marcus took those photos. His thumb traced her cheekbone. Why were you crying? Victoria's breath hitched. Because you said you didn't need me at the meeting, that I should stay home and rest, like I was some fragile thing that couldn't handle the pressure. And all I could think was that you were already starting to push me away, that the letters were just the beginning. I told you to stay home because you'd been working 90-hour weeks, because I saw you falling asleep at your desk and forgetting to eat. His voice broke. Because I loved you so much it terrified me, and I was trying to take care of you the only way I knew how. A sob tore from her throat. We wasted 5 years hating each other for something that was never real. Then let's make the next 5 years real. Dominic pulled the sapphire ring from his pocket. Help me destroy the men who destroyed us. And when it's over, marry me again. For real this time, no courthouse, no secrets, no doubts. Victoria stared at the ring, then at the man holding it. The man she'd loved and lost and found again in the ruins of their past. What if we can't win? What if Jonathan releases that fake video anyway? Then we go down fighting together. His smile was razor-sharp and absolutely devastating. But I have a plan, and it starts with you trusting me one more time. I never stopped trusting you. The words were raw truth. I just stopped trusting myself. Dominic's phone buzzed with a new message. He glanced at the screen, and his expression shifted to something dark and dangerous. What is it? He turned the phone toward her. A photo of Marcus Reed, time-stamped 30 minutes ago. He was lying in a hospital bed, tubes and wires connecting him to machines. His face was bruised, his arm in a cast. The message below read, "One traitor down. You're next, Sterling. And this time your assistant can't save you." The hospital smelled like disinfectant and desperation. Victoria's heels echoed against linoleum as she and Dominic moved through stark white corridors. Marcus Reed's room was at the end of the hall, guarded by a single police officer who barely looked up from his phone. Family only. The officer's voice was bored routine. I'm his business partner. Victoria's lie came smooth as silk. Victoria Hayes, Hayes Technologies. This is Dominic Sterling, his attorney. The officer waved them through without checking identification. Marcus lay motionless except for the shallow rise and fall of his chest. Machines beeped a steady rhythm, measuring a life that looked more broken than Victoria had expected. Bruises mottled his face in shades of purple and yellow. His left arm was encased in plaster from shoulder to wrist. He can't hear you. A nurse appeared in the doorway, her scrubs patterned with cartoon bears. Medically induced coma. Severe concussion, fractured skull, broken ribs. Someone beat him pretty badly. Did the police have any leads? Dominic asked, his voice carefully neutral. The nurse shook her head. Found in an alley downtown around midnight. No witnesses, no security footage. Just a wallet full of cash, so it wasn't a robbery. She checked Marcus's IV, her movements efficient. You have 5 minutes. When she left, Victoria moved closer to the bed. Marcus's phone sat on the bedside table, screen dark and innocent. This feels wrong, like we're vultures circling a corpse. He tried to destroy us. Dominic's voice was cold fact, no emotion. He orchestrated everything with Jonathan. Cost us 5 years. And now someone's trying to kill him. Victoria picked up the phone, her heart hammering, which means Jonathan's cleaning up loose ends. The phone required a fingerprint. Victoria glanced at the door, then carefully pressed Marcus's thumb against the sensor. The screen lit up, revealing a cascade of missed calls and messages. Most were from unknown numbers, but one contact name made her breath catch. Catherine Blackwood. The woman from the letters. Victoria's voice was barely a whisper. She opened the message thread and her stomach dropped. Dominic, look at this. The messages dated back 6 years. Long before Victoria had found any letters, before the betrayal, before everything fell apart. Catherine. Is Sterling suspicious yet? Marcus. No, he trusts his assistant completely. It's almost sad how blind he is. Catherine. Good. Keep feeding her information about the letters. Make sure she finds them at exactly the right time. Victoria's hands shook. Catherine was part of it too. She was working with them from the beginning. Dominic scrolled through more messages. His jaw clenched so tight she could see the muscle jumping. Here, 3 months before you left. Catherine sent fake drafts of letters from me to Marcus. He was supposed to plant them in my office for you to find. But Jonathan wrote the actual letters. Victoria's voice was hollow. He wrote them in your handwriting. I checked them against documents I knew were yours. The handwriting was perfect. Because Jonathan's the one who taught me cursive in 7th grade. We practiced for hours copying each other's handwriting to forge our parents' signatures on detention slips. Dominic's laugh was broken glass. He knew exactly how to make it look real. A new message appeared on Marcus's phone, the alert cutting through the sterile quiet. Unknown number. Reed's not talking. Good. Make sure Sterling and the girl don't get too comfortable. They're next. Victoria and Dominic stared at each other. The machines beeped their indifferent rhythm while the city hummed beyond frosted windows. We need to leave. Dominic grabbed her hand. Now. They were halfway to the elevator when Victoria's phone rang. Unknown number. Against every instinct, she answered. Hello, Victoria. Jonathan's voice was smooth as a knife sliding between ribs. Enjoying your hospital visit? Her blood turned to ice. You're watching us. I'm always watching. That's how I've stayed 3 steps ahead for 5 years. His laugh was casual cruelty. Did you really think I'd let Marcus live long enough to confess? The man was a liability. Sloppy, emotional, guilty. He was actually planning to tell you everything tonight. Can you imagine? Dominic pressed close, listening to the speaker. His hand found the small of Victoria's back, steadying her. What do you want, Jonathan? I want you to understand something. This was never about money. Money was just the score we kept. His voice dropped, intimate and poisonous. This was about watching Dominic Sterling lose everything he loved. His company, his wife, his dignity, and you, Victoria. You were the perfect instrument, so trusting, so desperate to believe you were protecting him. You're insane. Victoria's voice shook with rage. I'm methodical. There's a difference. Keys clicked in the background. Now here's what's going to happen. You're going to transfer Hayes Technologies to an offshore account I control. Every patent, every dollar, every line of code. And you're going to do it in the next 6 hours. Or what? Dominic's voice was deadly quiet. Or I release the video of Victoria planning the theft. She goes to prison for corporate espionage, minimum 15 years. You lose her all over again, Dominic. Except this time, you'll spend the rest of your life knowing you could have saved her and chose not to. The line went dead. Victoria leaned against the hospital wall, her legs suddenly unreliable. He's going to win. No matter what we do, he's going to win. No. Dominic's voice was iron and determination. He's not, but we need to move fast, and I need you to trust me completely. I do trust you. Then give me Hayes Technologies. Victoria's head snapped up. What? Sign over your company to me. Right now. Every patent, every protocol, everything you built. Dominic pulled out his phone, already drafting legal documents with one-handed efficiency. If Jonathan wants Hayes Technologies, he'll have to go through Sterling Tech to get it. And Sterling Tech has legal protections he can't crack without revealing his own crimes. Dominic, that's insane. Hayes Tech is worth $12 billion. I can't just hand it over to you. You can. And you will. He cupped her face, his touch achingly gentle despite the urgency in his voice. Because this is the only way to protect what you built. Jonathan wants to take everything from you. This way, he gets nothing, but you'll have everything. My company, my patents, my life's work. Victoria's voice cracked. What's to stop you from keeping it all? From making me exactly what everyone thought I was 5 years ago. Your assistant who got too big for her position. The hurt that flashed across Dominic's face was profound. Is that what you think of me? I think 5 years is a long time to hate someone. I think betrayal runs deep, even when we know the truth now. I think giving you my company makes me vulnerable in ways that terrify me. Dominic was silent for a long moment. Then he pulled the sapphire ring from his pocket and held it between them. You asked me earlier if any of it was real. Our marriage, our partnership, the life we built before Jonathan destroyed it. I'll answer that question if you answer mine. What question? When you left 5 years ago, taking the research and the money, running from what you thought I'd become, did you ever love me? Or was I always just a means to an end? Victoria's eyes burned with unshed tears. Every moment with you was real. Every late night in the lab. Every stolen kiss between meetings. Every time I fell asleep at my desk and woke up with your jacket over my shoulders. I loved you so completely it scared me. And when I thought you were going to leave me, it didn't just break my heart. It shattered who I was. Then trust me now. Dominic pressed the ring into her palm. Give me your company. And I swear on everything we ever were, everything we could still be. I'll give it back when this is over. Along with Sterling Tech, merged together under one name, Hayes Sterling Technologies, equal partners, no secrets, no doubts. Victoria stared at the ring, feeling the weight of the choice pressing down on her chest. Give him everything and trust he wouldn't destroy her, or refuse and watch Jonathan win. If you betray me, I'll have nothing left. If I betray you, I don't deserve to have anything. His voice was raw honesty. But I won't. I promise you, Victoria. I won't. She closed her hand around the ring, feeling the cold metal bite into her palm. Okay, draft the papers. I'll sign. 30 minutes later, in a dingy 24-hour notary office that smelled like old coffee and broken dreams, Victoria signed away everything she'd built. Every late night, every sacrifice, every drop of blood and sweat she'd poured into creating something that was hers alone. The pen felt like a weapon in her hand as she scrawled her signature across page after page. When it was done, Dominic's phone buzzed with confirmation. Hayes Technologies now belonged to Sterling Tech. Victoria owned nothing but the clothes on her back and the ring burning in her pocket. Now what? Her voice sounded hollow even to her own ears. Dominic's smile was sharp as a blade. Now we go after Jonathan. And we use the one thing he never saw coming. What's that? The fact that Catherine Blackwood is actually an FBI agent who's been investigating him for securities fraud for 3 years. And I just sent her everything we found on Marcus's phone. Victoria's jaw dropped. You knew? This whole time, you knew Catherine was FBI? I've known for 6 months. Since she approached me with evidence that Jonathan had been embezzling from Sterling Tech. Dominic's expression was grim satisfaction. I've been feeding her information, building a case. Tonight just accelerated the timeline. Why didn't you tell me? Because until an hour ago I thought you were guilty. I thought you'd been working with Marcus and Jonathan from the beginning. His hand found hers, fingers intertwining. I was wrong, and I'm sorry. Victoria opened her mouth to respond when her phone exploded with notifications. News alerts, text messages, emergency broadcasts. She glanced at the screen and felt the world tilt. Breaking. Tech billionaire Jonathan Pierce, arrested for murder. Conspiracy, fraud. Former partner Marcus Reed critical after attempted murder. Below the headline, a photo of Jonathan being led from his office in handcuffs. His face twisted in rage. It's over. Victoria's voice was barely a whisper. We won. Not yet. Dominic's expression went dark as he read something on his own phone. Catherine just sent me this. There's one more person involved. Someone who's been helping Jonathan from inside Hayes Technologies. He turned the screen toward her. A photo of a young man in a gray suit, his face boyish and nervous. Marcus Chen, her assistant. No. Victoria's world fractured. Marcus has been with me since the beginning. He's loyal, hardworking, he's Jonathan's nephew. Catherine tracked the family connection through sealed adoption records. Dominic's voice was gentle but firm. And according to surveillance footage, He left your office building 20 minutes ago carrying 2 hard drives and a laptop. Everything about your company that wasn't in the legal transfer. Victoria's phone rang. Marcus Chen's name lit up the screen, and her hand trembled as she answered. Miss Hayes. Marcus's voice was shaking, young and terrified. I'm so sorry. He said he'd hurt my mother. He said if I didn't help him, he'd destroy my family. I never wanted any of this. Where are you, Marcus? Jonathan's warehouse on the waterfront. He wants to meet. Both of you. He says if you don't come in 1 hour, he'll burn everything. Every backup, every file, everything that proves your innocence. Marcus's voice cracked. And then he's going to kill me. The warehouse district smelled like salt water and decay. Victoria's breath misted in the cold air as she and Dominic approached the building Marcus had described. Rusted metal siding, broken windows like missing teeth, the hum of the city a distant whisper against the lap of waves. This is a trap. Dominic's hand rested at the small of her back, protective and tense. Catherine's team is 15 minutes out. We should wait. Marcus could be dead in 15 minutes. Victoria's voice was steady despite the fear clawing at her throat. He's just a kid who got caught up in his uncle's nightmare. I'm not leaving him. Always trying to save everyone. Dominic's smile was sad and proud in equal measure. That's what got us into this mess, you know. You trying to save me from letters that were never real. And you trying to protect me by pushing me away. She squeezed his hand. We're a matched set of disasters. The warehouse door hung open, revealing darkness cut by pale moonlight through broken skylights. Inside, the space stretched vast and empty except for a single circle of light in the center. Marcus Chen sat tied to a metal chair, his face bruised and tear-streaked. Blood trickled from a cut above his eye. Miss Hayes, Mr. Sterling. Jonathan Pierce emerged from the shadows like a nightmare gaining form. He wore an expensive suit despite everything, his silver hair perfectly styled, his smile sharp as surgical steel. So glad you could join us for the final act. Let him go, Jonathan. Victoria's voice echoed off concrete and rust. This is between us. He's got nothing to do with it. Oh, but he has everything to do with it. He's my insurance policy. Jonathan circled Marcus's chair, one hand resting almost gently on the young man's shoulder. You see, I knew Catherine was FBI 6 months ago. I've been feeding her false evidence, leading her investigation in circles. Tonight's arrest, theater. I'll be released in 72 hours when my lawyers prove chain of custody was broken on every piece of evidence. Dominic's jaw clenched. You're bluffing, am I? Jonathan pulled out his phone, displaying a video call. On screen, Catherine Blackwood sat in what looked like an FBI office, her expression professionally neutral. Agent Blackwood, please explain to my old friends what you explained to my attorneys. Catherine's voice was flat, defeated. The evidence chain was compromised. Every document, every recording, every file we received was handled by unsecured channels. Nothing will hold up in court. Jonathan Pierce will walk free. The call ended. Victoria felt her knees weaken, but she forced herself to stand straight. What do you want? What I've always wanted. To watch Dominic Sterling lose everything. Jonathan's eyes glittered in the dim light. But I've revised my methods. Stealing your company, your wife, your dignity, that was satisfying, but not permanent. You kept fighting, kept building, kept hoping. So tonight I'm going to take something you can never rebuild. He pulled a gun from inside his jacket. The metal gleamed dully as he pressed it against Marcus's temple. No. Victoria lunged forward, but Dominic caught her, held her back with arms that trembled with restraint. Here's the game. Jonathan's voice was conversational, casual, as if he were discussing stock prices over lunch. One of you gets to live, Victoria or Dominic. You have 60 seconds to decide. Whoever's chosen walks out of here with young Marcus. The other one stays behind and learns what it's like to lose absolutely everything. You're insane. Dominic's voice shook with rage. You'd kill me over jealousy? Over some twisted vendetta? Not jealousy. Justice. Jonathan's mask cracked, revealing something raw and wounded beneath. Do you remember freshman year, when I showed you my prototype for encrypted messaging? My revolutionary idea that I'd worked on for months? Dominic went still. Jonathan, that was 20 years ago. You told me it would never work, that it was a waste of time. So I gave up on it. Jonathan's laugh was broken bottles and old pain. And then 6 months later, you presented the exact same concept in Professor Mitchell's class. You called it your breakthrough, your genius moment, and everyone believed you. I didn't steal your idea. We collaborated on it together. You knew that. I knew you stole my work and got the glory while I got nothing. And you've been stealing from me ever since. Jobs, opportunities, recognition. Even Victoria. The gun pressed harder against Marcus's skull. The young man's sobs were quiet, terrified. So now you get to choose. Your life or hers. Decide, or I kill all three of you and burn this place to the ground. Victoria's mind raced. She could see Dominic's jaw working, could feel the tension in his body like a coiled spring. Marcus's eyes were wide and pleading, darting between them. Take me! Victoria's voice rang clear in the cavernous space. Let Dominic and Marcus go. I'm the one who actually stole from you. I took the research, built Hayes Technologies. Dominic was innocent in all of this, so take me and let them live. No. Dominic's grip on her arm tightened. Absolutely not. This isn't your choice. Victoria turned to face him, memorizing every line of his face, every silver strand in his dark hair. You've spent your whole life trying to protect people. Let me protect you for once. Victoria, don't do this. She pressed the sapphire ring into his palm, closing his fingers around it. Remember what you promised me. Hayes Sterling Technologies. Equal partners. Build it for both of us. Make something good out of all this destruction. I can't lose you again. Dominic's voice cracked, and she saw tears on his face for the first time since she'd known him. I just got you back. You never lost me. She kissed him, quick and fierce, tasting salt and desperation. Not 5 years ago, not now, not ever. But this is the only way everyone gets out alive. How touching. Jonathan's voice dripped with mockery, the assistant sacrificing herself for the billionaire. It's almost poetic, but I'm afraid I can't accept. He swung the gun away from Marcus and pointed it directly at Dominic. You see, I never intended to let anyone choose. I just wanted to see which of you would offer to die first. Wanted to know if the love between you was real, or just another lie in a web of lies. Turns out it's real, which makes this so much more satisfying. His finger tightened on the trigger. Victoria didn't think. She threw herself forward, her body colliding with Dominic's, pushing him sideways as the gun fired. The sound was deafening, a physical force that seemed to tear the air apart. Pain bloomed in her shoulder, white-hot and consuming. She hit the concrete hard, her head cracking against the floor. Through blurred vision, she saw Dominic's face above her, his mouth moving in words she couldn't hear over the ringing in her ears. More gunshots, shouting, the thunder of footsteps as FBI agents poured through doors she hadn't seen in the darkness. Catherine's voice barking orders, commanding surrender, calling for medical. Jonathan Pierce on his knees, hands behind his head, his expression finally showing fear. Marcus Chen crying, still tied to the chair, but alive, and Dominic pressing his hands against her shoulder, blood seeping between his fingers like spilled wine. His face was above hers, close enough that she could count the gold flecks in his blue eyes. Stay with me. His voice came from underwater, distant and distorted. Victoria, stay with me. The ambulance is coming. Just stay. She tried to tell him it was okay, that she'd made the choice willingly, that saving him was worth whatever came next. But her voice wouldn't work, and the world was fading to gray at the edges. The last thing she saw before darkness took her was the sapphire ring on Dominic's finger, catching the light like a promise. Like hope. Like everything they'd lost, and might still find again if she could just hold on long enough. Her eyes closed. The world went silent, and somewhere in the distance she heard Dominic scream her name. White ceiling tiles. The steady beep of monitors, the chemical smell of antiseptic trying to mask the scent of blood and fear. Victoria's eyes opened slowly, her vision swimming before focusing on the IV line trailing from her arm. Don't move. Dominic's voice was rough sandpaper, exhaustion and relief mixed in equal parts. He sat in a chair pulled close to the bed, his suit jacket gone, his white shirt stained rust brown with her blood. His hand held hers like she might disappear if he let go. The bullet went through your shoulder. Missed the major arteries by centimeters. The surgeon said you got impossibly lucky. Victoria's throat felt like broken glass. Marcus? Safe, traumatized but physically fine. The FBI has him in protective custody until Jonathan's trial. Dominic's thumb traced circles on her wrist, the touch achingly gentle. You saved us both. You threw yourself in front of a bullet, and you saved us. I couldn't let him shoot you. The words came out cracked and thin, not after everything we'd already lost. Dominic leaned forward, pressing his forehead against their joined hands. His shoulders shook, and she realized with shock that he was crying. I've spent the last 18 hours watching you fight for your life, watching monitors and praying to gods I don't believe in. And all I could think was that we wasted 5 years hating each other over lies, that if you died, I'd never get to tell you. Tell me what? He lifted his head and his eyes were red-rimmed but clear. That I never stopped loving you. Not for a single day. Not when I thought you'd betrayed me. Not when I was building cases to destroy you. Not even when I hated you with everything I had. Underneath it all, I loved you so much it was like breathing, constant and necessary and completely beyond my control. Tears tracked down Victoria's cheeks, hot and cleansing. I burned everything trying to get over you. Built a company. Worked until I collapsed. Took meetings at 3 a.m. so I wouldn't have to sleep and dream about what we'd lost. But you were always there, in every decision, every risk, every moment I succeeded and wished you were there to see it. I was there. Dominic's smile was soft and devastating. Every article written about Hayes Technologies, every award you won, every time your company's stock price jumped. I followed it all, hated you and was proud of you in the same breath. That's incredibly unhealthy. We're a matched set of disasters, remember? He echoed her words from the warehouse, and despite everything, she laughed. The movement sent pain lancing through her shoulder, but she didn't care. A knock on the door interrupted them. Catherine Blackwood entered, her FBI badge clipped to her belt, her expression professional but kind. Miss Hayes, good to see you awake. We need to discuss what happens next. Jonathan? Victoria's voice steadied, in federal custody. Between the attempted murder charges, the conspiracy evidence from Marcus Reed's phone, and young Marcus Chen's testimony, he's looking at 30 years minimum. Catherine pulled out a tablet, scrolling through documents. We also recovered all the files he stole from your company. Every backup, every protocol, completely intact. Relief flooded through Victoria like warm water. What about the fake evidence he mentioned? The chain of custody being broken? A bluff. He was hoping you'd panic and make a mistake. Catherine's smile was shark-like. Jonathan Pierce might be smart, but he underestimated how thoroughly we'd been watching him. Every conversation recorded, every transaction tracked. He's not walking away from this. And Marcus Reed? Dominic asked quietly, awake and talking. Full immunity in exchange for testimony against Jonathan. He's terrified and guilty and very, very sorry. Catherine's expression softened. He asked me to tell you both that he never wanted any of this. That Jonathan manipulated him from the start with promises of wealth and power. For what it's worth, I believe him. It doesn't excuse what he did. Victoria's voice was firm. But I hope he gets a chance to rebuild. To be better than the person Jonathan tried to make him. Catherine nodded. There's one more thing. The legal transfer of Hayes Technologies to Sterling Tech. Given that it was done under duress, with Jonathan threatening your life, you have grounds to reverse it. Take back your company, Victoria glanced at Dominic. He met her eyes, his expression open and unguarded. It's your choice. Whatever you decide, I'll support it. What did you promise me? Victoria asked quietly. In that dingy notary office when I signed everything away? Hayes Sterling Technologies. Equal partners. No secrets, no doubts. Then that's what I want. She turned to Catherine. Let the transfer stand. But draw up new papers. 50-50 ownership. Both names on every patent. Complete transparency in all operations. We build it together. Or we don't build it at all. Catherine smiled. I'll have the lawyers draft the documents. You should both know. The merged company will be worth approximately $18 billion once the market stabilizes from the news cycle. That's a lot of power for two people, who just tried to kill each other 5 years ago. We didn't try to kill each other, Dominic's. Hand tightened on Victoria's. We loved each other so completely that other people could use it as a weapon. That's different, is it? Catherine's expression was knowing. Well, either way, congratulations. You've survived Jonathan Pierce's vendetta, a bullet wound, and 5 years of mutual destruction. If you can survive all that, you can probably survive anything. When she left, silence settled over the room like snow. Victoria studied Dominic's face, seeing exhaustion and hope warring in his features. Ask me. Her voice was barely a whisper. Ask you what? What you asked me in the warehouse, before everything went wrong. Ask me again. Dominic reached into his pocket, pulling out the sapphire ring that had survived bullets and blood and 18 hours of his terror. He slid it onto her finger, the metal still warm from his touch. Marry me. Not in a courthouse with signatures and witnesses we don't know. Marry me in front of everyone we care about. Marry me with promises we'll actually keep this time. Marry me and let's stop running from the past and start building a future. Yes. Victoria's voice broke on the word. Yes to all of it. Yes to building something real. Yes to trusting each other. Yes to loving you even when it's terrifying and complicated and completely insane. He leaned forward, kissing her with a gentleness that made her chest ache. The kiss tasted like tears and hope, like endings and beginnings, like coming home after being lost for longer than she'd realized. When they pulled apart, dawn was breaking through the hospital window. Seattle spread below them, the city waking to a new day, indifferent to the ruins and resurrections happening in hearts throughout its streets. I have a confession. Dominic's voice was careful, almost shy. I bought a building last year, downtown, overlooking the bay. I was going to turn it into Sterling Tech's new headquarters. But I kept imagining what it would look like if Hayes Technologies was there too, if we were building something together instead of apart. Show me. Victoria's smile was sunrise breaking. When I'm out of this hospital, show me everything. And we'll design it together. Every floor, every office, every space where brilliant people will create brilliant things. We'll build something that matters. Together. Together. 6 months later, the grand opening of Hayes Sterling Technologies drew crowds that spilled into the streets. The building was glass and steel and possibility, rising 45 stories into the Seattle sky. Inside, 2 names adorned the lobby wall in letters that caught the light. Equal size, equal prominence, equal partnership. Victoria stood at the podium, her shoulder healed to a thin white scar she no longer bothered to hide. Dominic stood beside her, his hand resting at the small of her back, the sapphire on her finger catching light like captured stars. 5 years ago, I made choices I'm not proud of. Victoria's voice carried across the assembled crowd. Investors, employees, journalists, all hanging on her words. I stole from the man I loved because I was afraid of losing him. I spent 5 years building an empire to prove I was more than what I feared I'd become, and in the process, I almost lost everything that actually mattered. She turned to Dominic, seeing her own journey reflected in his eyes. But sometimes destruction is necessary for rebuilding. Sometimes you have to burn everything down to see what's truly essential. And what I learned is this: the only thing essential, the only thing worth saving, is the people we choose to love and the trust we build with them. Hayes Sterling Technologies exists because 2 broken people decided to trust each other one more time. Dominic's voice joined hers, strong and certain, because we chose partnership over pride, transparency over secrets, love over fear, and because we believe that building something meaningful requires both strength and vulnerability in equal measure. The applause was thunder, but Victoria barely heard it. She was too focused on the man beside her, the ring on both their fingers matching now, the promises they'd made in hospital rooms and courtrooms and quiet moments when no one else was watching. Later, after the speeches and the champagne and the endless parade of congratulations, they stood alone in the executive suite. 45 stories up, Seattle glittering below them like possibilities scattered across darkness. Any regrets? Dominic asked, pulling her close, careful of her healing shoulder. Victoria thought about the 5 years they'd lost, the pain they'd endured, the ruins they'd built their new life upon. She thought about Jonathan Pierce in prison, Marcus Reed starting over with immunity and guilt in equal parts, Marcus Chen rebuilding his life with therapy and second chances. She thought about the empire she'd built alone and the partnership she'd chosen instead. About the woman who'd stolen secrets to survive, and the woman who'd learned that survival meant nothing without someone to share it with. None. Her voice was certain as sunrise. Not a single one. Because everything we went through brought us here, to this moment, to this choice, to choosing each other every single day, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. She kissed him, soft and slow and full of promises. We're a matched set of disasters, remember? We've survived everything else. We can survive happiness too. Outside, the city hummed with life. Inside, two people who'd been broken and betrayed and lost learned what it meant to be found, not by searching for perfection, but by choosing each other's flaws, scars, and histories, by building something real from the ashes of what they'd destroyed, by loving each other completely, finally, without fear or doubt or secrets. The end.